I have lots of great memories from my childhood and teenage years going fishing with my dad. He used to pull on my toe and wake me up at 4 o'clock every Saturday morning. Me, my brother, and my dad would go fish all day every Saturday somewhere. Those are great memories for me. And during those years, I remembered somebody very important to the sport of fishing and a very important lure that he invented. We're going to tell you all about that, take you bass fishing at a really special place. It all comes up next because Let's Fish TV is on the air right now. That is a fish. Oh man, look at this.
It's time for the only program that brings you real-time fishing reports from the Southwest region every week.
Oh my gosh. Oh, look at that. Woo!
This is Let's Fish.
Hi everybody and welcome to this week's episode of Let's Fish TV. I'm coming to you from a very important place in the sport of fishing. I'd like to welcome you to downtown Eufaula, Alabama. And this is a giant 12-foot tall largemouth bass statue. Now, why is this in the middle of Eufaula, Alabama? Well, this statue commemorates someone who was very important to the sport of bass fishing, a pioneer in many ways, and in my preteen and teenage years, he brings back a lot of memories. It's Tom Mann, who in 1956 started Mann's Bait Company, and he invented the original Mann's jelly worm. It was the first plastic worm that guys started catching bass on all over the country. Now, Eufaula, Alabama is situated right on the sprawling Lake Eufaula, and in many ways, again, it is the home of bass fishing. There have been tons of professional tournaments, Major League Fishing, Bassmaster tournaments of all kinds held here, and it's chock full of largemouth bass. We're going to take you fishing on Lake Eufaula this week. Now, to help us do that is my fully rigged Caymas CX21 fishing machine. It's loaded with all the top-end components. It's built to last a lifetime. It's got a ride like you cannot believe. It's outfitted with my Mercury Pro XS 250 outboard engine, and this Caymas boat, along with the entire Caymas boat line, was also invented by another pioneer in the boating and fishing industry, Earl Bentz, who started Stratus Boats, one of our very first sponsors of our show back in the 80s, and then later started Triton Boats. He now has started the Caymas Boat Company, and I'm proud to have one of the first Caymas CX21 boats that they have produced. We're taking it out on Lake Eufaula today to do some bass fishing. While we're doing that, we're taking you around the region for this week's fishing reports from our expert team of insider reporters from lakes, rivers, and bays right where you live, both saltwater and freshwater. Right now, we're headed to the boat ramp in Lake Eufaula. We get things started back at the studio in your weekend planner.
Hey everybody, the Salooner tables are predicting fair game fish activity throughout both days this weekend. Peak game fish activity begins after midnight, starting around 12:49 on Saturday and 1:21 Sunday. Best daytime action will begin at 1:14 on Saturday and 1:46 Sunday afternoon. Depending on where you are, the sun will rise around 7:23 and set around 7:08, and evenings will feature a full moon. Stay with us, we've got fishing reports from across the area on the way. Plus, Bassmaster elite angler Brian Snowden stops by to answer your Ask the Pro question. Back in a bit.
Let's Fish TV is proudly backed by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Bobby Garland Crappie Baits and the original Baby Shad and new slab Huntar Minnow. Glacier Glove. Stay outdoors longer with our gloves, hats, and shades. Balls Out. Made in the USA. Heavy duty mounts for your fish finders. And by Caymas Boats. Tomorrow's tournament boat today.
And that's what you catch at the big bass capital of the world right there. Look at that dude. Fish. There we go. Got a fish on. First one. You're wanting to go that way, are you? What have I got? There we go, largemouth, decent one. Hit my rattling crawler first thing this morning. There we go. There's a nice fat chunk for you right there. Lake Eufaula, we've made it out on the most nostalgic bass lake that I can think of. So this is the lake where Tom Mann got his start, cut his teeth, one of the places where Bassmaster got its start. And after all these years, back in the 50s where all this began, it's still going strong today. Well, we're gonna put that beautiful Lake Eufaula bass back and watch it swim away. And let me get you some information about the lake. It's 45,000 surface acres, so it's a giant lake. It's about 100 feet deep at its very deepest point in the river channel, the Chattahoochee River Channel. It's got 650 miles of shoreline, so it's really spread out. The lake is fairly off color. It's not a crystal clear type of a lake at all. It's a flatlands lake, clay, red clay, and sandy bottom for the most part. One thing of note today in particular, it just so happens that on this road trip I'm on, we wind up here on a Saturday. And I can promise you, I have never seen this many boats of all kinds on a lake on one day in my entire life. And I come from Lake Fork, where it's common to see, 1,000 boats on the lake. But I'm telling you, I'm having a hard time even finding a place to fish that's not stacked with boats already. Bass boats, a lot of crappie fishermen out, pleasure boats, pontoon boats. I'm starting off the morning throwing a rattling crawler, which is a Jean LaRue bait, and it's got some kicking tails on it, and I'm just fishing down through a bunch of reeds, weed beds, grass beds, a little bit of lay down log. This lake doesn't have any standing timber in it to speak of. So it's pretty much vegetation is what you're going to be fishing. We'll talk more about that as we go, but that's a little bit of a start.
Hey, Oklahoma's Grand Lake at the Cherokees has been serving up some consistent quality crappie fishing now for the past couple of years. Claremore's George Tolson knows that body of water as well as anybody. I jumped in the boat with him this week to check out the crappie fishing, and here's what we found.
This brush pile that we're fishing right here is in about 15 feet of water. The fish are stacked for anywhere from the bottom up to about 8 foot deep. So there's a pretty good school of crappie over this one. Now we're catching a lot of small crappie, but there's a lot of big crappie in it too. This is the time of the year that you kind of have to go through the little ones to get you a good mess of big ones, but you can get a big mess of big ones. We're mid-lake area. The water temperature is 76 degrees. It's cooled down quite a bit. Monkey milk, glacier, or blue ice. Right now I'm fishing blue ice. I've fished all three of them so far, and they bite in all three of them. Didn't make any difference. But as the water gets colder, the big ones will move back into these brush piles real heavy.
I'm confident if you try what George told you here, you too can have success on Grand Lake, but you can't catch them if you don't go.
There's a bite. Got him. Oh, we got it. Look at this. That's a big one. This is a big one here. Look at this. Easy, easy, darling. Easy, darling. Look at this bad boy. Come in here, Lake Eufaula. Come in here, Lake Eufaula. Don't. Look at that dude. There's Lake Eufaula for you. Hey everybody, we are at the home, well, what's called the big bass capital of the world. You saw it on the sign. And that's what you catch at the big bass capital of the world right there. Look at that dude. I came a long ways to Alabama to catch that beautiful specimen right there. That is a great Lake Eufaula largemouth right there. My buddy Clayton Batts guides on this lake. He also fishes the FLW tour very successfully, and he told me that when you come to this lake, you need to be prepared to fish as shallow as you've ever fished in your life. And I want to tell you that I'm doing that. I don't think I've ever caught bass as shallow as I'm catching them right here. Let's let that one go back. She didn't know she was released. Man, what a deal. That is fun right there. I want you to look at these little scattered reed beds here. The cool thing is there are reeds, but then just out in front of the reeds, there are these submerged underwater grass beds. You got to look with your polarized sunglasses to see them. They're in real shallow water. But those little dark patches are grass beds growing just off the bottom. And you've got just a little bit of space between the top of the grass and the surface, about a foot maybe. And I'm swimming that Jean LaRue rattling crawler with those kicking legs, and it's swimming right across the top of that grass. And that big one just could not stand it. Okay, there's another one. Well, we are catching them today on Lake Eufaula. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to see more fishing tips, how-to videos, big fish catches, and full episodes of our Let's Fish TV show, be sure to subscribe right here to our YouTube channel. You can also like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. Good fishing out there. Lily pads, fish, he's got it. Come out here. Out of those lily pads. Come loose. There he comes. Not a big one. Don't get around my trolling motor either. There he comes. Come up here, buddy. Okay, there's another one. Well, we are catching them today on Lake Eufaula. It's just a good, solid tournament fish if you were fishing tournaments. Took him a while to get his bearings. Well, we're having a great day, and we actually made a move right now. We've made a long run. We started off in the mid-lake area where the water's kind of murky and even shallower. Now we've moved down all the way almost by the dam. And the water here is clearer. The slope is a little bit more. It's just a tiny bit deeper, maybe 6 inches deeper. We're still fishing in 2 feet of water versus 18 inches further up the lake. And what's happening now is that the sun's gotten high up overhead. Earlier this morning, you saw me catching some fish out of those grass beds with that rattling crawler, that plastic bait crawling it over the top of the grass. Well, once the sun's gotten up higher, those fish have sunk down, they're up against the bottom, and they're not chasing it up again. I've gone a couple of hours without a bite. So I've switched over now, and I'm just using a little trick worm, a little plastic worm in honor of Tom Mann. And this worm is a Jean LaRue tattletale worm. And I'm rigging it. I'll show you at the end of the show how I'm rigging it. I'm rigging it a very special way, but there's what the tattletale worm looks like. Basically, it's come unrigged there, but that's what it looks like. Just a little 8-inch worm, little pumpkin color with some, a watermelon color with some green flake in it, some red flake. So just casting this trick worm around these lily pads and outside edges of the grass and some cypress trees. Slowing down and letting the day dictate to me how I can catch the fish. Hang with us, let's see if I can catch another one.
Hi everyone, Captain Greg Verm here bringing you this week's Texas Coastal Report. I tell you what, we have had some crazy weather the last 2 weeks here in Texas. Extreme high tides, tropical storms, and hurricanes in the western Gulf of Mexico. But I am thinking fall is finally here. This morning on my back bay Galveston charter, I actually wore a sweatshirt on the boat ride out. This morning, water temps was mid-70s in West Galveston Bay and fishing was excellent. From Port Mansfield to Sabine, 2 great spawns are in progress right now, redfish and the flounder. Now the redfish, hey, we're well underway with their spawn. Now the flounder, they're in pre-spawn mode. Now the speckled trout are also extremely active and will continue as the marshes drain and shrimp begin to flood the bays. Hey, fall fishing is here on the Texas Gulf Coast, and if you want to fish Galveston or Freeport, give me a call, check out our websites. I'd love to have you aboard. I'm Captain Greg Verm, and I'll see you next week.
Let's Fish TV is proudly backed by Mercury, Go Boldly, Lowrance, America's #1 fish finder, Lose, Feel the Difference, and by Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, Alabama. Get our free fishing guide at orangebeach.com.
Well, they are locking that wacky rigged worm. Well, we're catching them on the wacky rig. it, bite it, bite it, bite it. Got him. Get out of that grass. There he comes. I got him out of the grass. There we go. That's a tournament swing right there. Welcome back, everybody, to Lake Eufaula. This lake has got a second name. It's Walter F. George, I think. Walter George Reservoir. That's the dam that was constructed. Catching some nice bass today. This is a hydroelectric generating lake there at the dam. And they control the water through the lake down the Chattahoochee River. We're fishing down a bunch of really good looking stuff. I want to show you this stuff I'm fishing. I can give you a really good look at it now because the wind's blown me right up into it. This is that grass stuff. You'll go down lots of shoreline and you'll see red clay, you'll see some reeds, but if you find these places that have this green kind of floating, some of it's attached to the bottom, but some of it's actually floating. And you flip around that, I've had to go to some finesse tactics, and I'm throwing a wacky rig. So this is a tattletale worm, but I'm hooking it in the side like that. And I'm doing one other special thing to it that I'll show you at the end of the show. You can't see it right there, but something's inside it that's helping me out a lot. But all I'm doing is throwing it along the edge of this grass, letting it slowly fade its way down. Keep that rod tip down, twitch, 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 pause, and let it float down. Every time you twitch it, that worm squeezes together like that and then pops back out. And there's something about that that just triggers the bass. So let's fish down a little bit more of this, see if we can get bit. We're having a good day today. The average size bass at this lake is going to run from 2 to about 4 pounds. It's going to be kind of your average, and a really nice big one here is 5 or 6 pounds, something like that. So that gives you an idea of what to expect when you come here. It's a great lake, great fishery. Even with all the pressure it gets, you can still catch some bass if you want to come here. Lake Eufaula, or Walter F. George, right on the Georgia-Alabama border.
Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's Lone Star Lakes, brought to you once again by the good folks at Skeleton Optics. Not only do they use the best glass lenses from Zeiss, but they're family owned and veteran owned, and they're going to give you 20% off with a code LoneStar20. Now this week I want to tell you just a little bit about the ShareLunker program, because although it only used to recognize fish over 13 pounds in the past, now they have several levels that start at 8 pounds and go up from there. That's important because you can use the ShareLunker program to track recent trends in big bass in lakes across the state. In other words, you see 2 or 3 good fish coming out of a single lake, that's probably a good place to go look for big fish. And a great example is Twin Buttes Reservoir down near San Angelo in southwest Texas. Previously one of those lakes that suffered terribly from the drought. Lake levels are back and the big bass are back. Back in July, they weighed in an 8-pounder. In early September, a 13-pound giant. This week's Lone Star Lakes was brought to you by Skeleton Optics. You really can see the difference. Be sure and check us out on Facebook, Lone Star Lakes.
Oh, that was a fish. I thought that was grass. Come out of that grass. He's stuck in it. Come out of that grass. There he comes. Not big, but that's all right. Boy, they are liking that wacky rigged worm. Well, we're catching them on the wacky rig. I want to tell you one other quick thing here. When I called my buddy Clayton Batts, who guides here, said, how can I catch them? What can I throw? He said, what do you want to throw? And there's not many times I get asked that question, but basically the fishing here at times is good enough where you can just pick what you want to do. So I came out yesterday by myself with my GoPro camera, and I caught some fish several different ways. I caught some on a spinnerbait. I used a Strike King tour grade spinnerbait and caught some around these little grass beds. That was fun. I caught some on a biffle bug. I caught some on a chatterbait, which is a thunder cricket by Strike King. So really, I just kind of caught some on a little bit of everything out here. Just some idea of how good the fishing can be here. Spring and fall, best times. Summertime, they're going to go out on those ledges out on the river channel. You need to fish a little deeper where those ledges drop off.
Watch our latest episode or catch up on past episodes on our website at letsfishtv.com. Be sure to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter for new fishing videos every day. And download the free Waypoint TV app to get all the latest episodes every week on your phone, tablet, computer, or smart TV. Let's Fish TV is proudly backed by Motor Guides Tour Pro, cable steer motor with GPS anchor, Waypoint Marine, the Gulf Coast's leading saltwater boating specialist, Strike King, Taiwan On, and by Low Boats. Welcome to Low Country.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's get right to your Ask a Pro question for this week. Carter wants to know, who is your hero and why? For an answer, we asked Bassmaster Elite Angler Brian Snowden.
The person that made me want to do this as a career was Rick Clunn. And I just look at Rick Clunn as an individual that was very far ahead of everyone else in his time frame. He thought outside the lines. He thought differently about fishing and how to pattern fish and how to prepare for tournaments. I remember reading about him. I remember about getting my autograph with him at the Bassmasters Classic when I was young. And then I remember getting to visit with him, go fish with him, do things with Bass Pro Shops at events with him, go to his house for dinner. So it's been a great experience, and getting to know him even more. I'm glad I chose him as my hero.
Thank you, Brian, for sharing with us. If you want some help from one of the pros yourself, simply go to letsfishtv.com and follow that Ask the Pro link to submit a question. Now it's time to find out who wins this week's Big Catch of the Week.
We are back at the boat ramp at Lake Eufaula, Alabama, and it's time right now for this week's winner in the Big Catch of the Week contest. He's Christopher Kaiser of Brock, Texas, with a 10-pound, 12-ounce largemouth bass he caught at Hubbard Creek Lake in Texas. And as a bonus, here's Blake Lloyd with a 9.4-pound largemouth bass, also caught at Hubbard Creek. If you'd like to be our next winner, just go to our Let's Fish website at letsfishtv.com, scroll down toward the bottom of the page and follow the instructions in the Big Catch of the Week area.
Here's today's Right Stuff, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Here is some of the gear that helped us catch all these bass and some of the big ones here at Lake Eufaula, Alabama. Here are a couple of the lures. It begins with the Strike King Tour Grade Spinnerbait. That's a chartreuse and brown color. It did a good job, especially early. And then later in the day when the fish got finicky, this is a Jean LaRue tattletale worm. It's an 8-inch plastic worm, and I have some lead toothpicks that I stuck in that worm, buried it completely in the worm, and that did just enough to hold the bait down below the surface so the bass could see it. And then I just wacky rigged it, basically stuck the hook right through the middle of the worm. As I travel around this country, I see all kinds of people. Some very healthy, some obviously struggling with their health. Sometimes things happen that can't be helped, but most of the time the choices that we make directly impact our health. What we eat, what we smoke, what we drink, the behaviors we're involved in, how much we exercise, all of those choices will impact our health. And here's the point. We alone are responsible for our health. You are and I am. Not our buddy, not our friend, not our spouse, not the government. The choices that you make and I make will impact our health. And you alone and I alone will either enjoy the benefits or suffer the consequences of those choices that we choose to make. If you would like to come here and experience some of the excellent bass fishing like you saw us doing on this week's episode, you can contact my friend Clayton Batts. He's an accomplished tournament angler on the FLW Tour, and he lives and guides here at Lake Eufaula. He follows the patterns and movements of these bass, and he can put you on them. You can contact Clayton Batts at the information on your screen. From beautiful Lake Eufaula, Alabama, until next week, I'm Barry Stokes. Let's fish, everybody. Be safe, have fun. Bye-bye, y'all.